those quarterly contribution rewards are where the real money is in this ecosystem. The daily rewards are actually kind of minuscule, but you want to be locked into somebody who's going to be able to get what's called the tier 1 rewards, which...
What is up, Hash Nation? Today we are talking about Internet of Services Token, or IOST. My good friend BitBoy, who is a community node on the IOST network, is going to be joining me for an interview in part 1 of this Token Talk Tuesday series, all about IOST. So without further ado, let's hash it out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with me, I have my good friend BitBoy. He is actually the guy who turned me on to IOST in the first place, so I thought I'd take a look for this Token Talk Tuesday. So here I have him here to talk about IOST, why he loves it, how he's involved, and why you should take a peek at it. So welcome.
Yeah, glad to be here. Appreciate you, having me on the channel. I was telling somebody just today, you were the first person that was ever on my channel other than me. So
super cool, man. I remember.
Yeah, we go way back. So, I certainly appreciate, you taking a look at IOST because I am a node on the system. I'm what's called a partner node. And you can see me right behind you. You can see me right behind me. There it is. I'm coming in at number 42 as of today. It fluctuates a little bit. But I really like IOST, the community-driven aspect of it. I mean, isn't that kind of what crypto is all about, right? Decentralization and being led by a community instead of, a few, concentrated hands that have all the power. So, I do think IOST is something that's really exciting. And I think it's definitely, I've been telling people I think it's going to be in the top 20 by the end of the year, on CoinMarketCap. And, the price isn't super important because, it's more, the overall market cap of IOST and things like that. I think it's going to move past a lot of other projects that are in front of it. So what I mean by the price is important. I mean, on CoinMarketCap, there's a lot of projects in front of it that I don't think are doing what IOST is doing. And I think there's a lot of room for it to move and to grow. And if you look at the other 3 platforms that are performing very well, Tron, Ethereum, and EOS, they're all in the top 11. So If you remove Tether from that mix, they're in the top 10. And right now, IOST is coming in, I believe, around number 43. It was in the 60s just a couple of weeks ago. So I think it's got a lot of potential. And that's, just from an investor standpoint, not necessarily the tech side of it.
Right.
As a member of the community and an investor, it's really super exciting to see where this project may be able to go.
That's dope, man. Yeah, I mean, we've gone through a lot of stuff that's technical in this video about how it works and the inner workings of the protocol. But I wanted to really take this time to learn more about the community part, because I know you're a community node. You're really a big part of this whole thing. So what would you say are the top 3 benefits to being a part of the IOST community, and what are some of the things you think are really special about it?
Well, I think I'll have to speak kind of personally about this because to me, the number one reason I'm excited about being involved with IOST is because as a content creator, I'm now on the other side of the content. I've always been reporting on it, and you're kind of the same way because as a developer, you're actually able to work with the projects, but it's just somebody who mainly focuses on news and current events and fundamental analysis. I'm not on the backside of any projects. So kind of being on the backside, the community side, seeing some of the internal conversations and things like that, it's really cool. And it's going to help my channel also because not just specifically reporting on IOST, but by, being able to explain voting and rewards and the way the ecosystem works. I think that's really awesome. The number 2 thing would be it's a great community. You see a lot of these other projects, and I'm not going to, name any specifically, but it's almost like, they want the project to grow, but there's this thing of oh, well, you're just new to this community. So, you seem to have less credibility. And the IOST community, from what I've seen, is not like that at all.
It's interesting.
I got involved with this project probably about 2 months ago is when I really started. Now, I did a review on IOST and have been interested in it. I was actually watching my original review the other day. Man, how times have changed. It was about a year ago that I did that. So,
before mainnet and everything.
Oh yeah. And it was funny. I was just talking about the roadmap and, let me say the roadmap's up for number 3, but, like I said, with the community, I joined the Telegram group and As a person who's kind of new to getting involved on this side, like I didn't know how people were going to receive me. And so people don't really understand when I say I'm number 42 on the network that, that's actually really good. Like I started not elected. You have to have 2.1 million votes to get elected.
Right.
So right now I've got about 5.7 million votes. And so the community has just been so great about supporting me in this endeavor and knowing that I'm one of the only people out there who's creating regular content for IOST. So the community side is really super exciting. The third thing I will say about IOST is the roadmap. And it's one of the few projects that has actually done what they say that they're going to do. So they've actually been ahead. They launched their test net ahead of when they said they were going to launch it. There's stuff that was supposed to be reserved for quarter 3 this year that's going to be coming out, in quarter 2. And so there's a lot about this team that it really has a focused mindset, and the community sees that and they appreciate that. So that's definitely an exciting thing about this ecosystem, is not feeling like I've got to wait forever for changes or improvements, but it's actively ongoing, I guess is a good way to say it.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think one of the things that you touched on just a second ago is that you've gotten 5.7 million votes from this community. Like, these are people that are involved in the IOST community that have voted for you to be a figurehead or a face. I wouldn't say a figurehead, a face of the IOST community itself, to push content out there. Good one. And and get people to understand how to do things. That being said, what does it mean to be a community node or to be a partner node in the IOST network?
Right. So IOST is a little bit different than some of the other projects. So you have 2 different kinds of nodes on the network. You have your block producing nodes, also called survey nodes, and then you have your partner nodes or community nodes. And basically what that means at this point is that they set the node up for me. So IOST basically hosts the node, but it's not a block producing node.
Right.
So, some people may see that and they may say, oh, you're not block producing. So when it comes to the rewards, which manually have to be claimed by the nodes, by the way, some people do it weekly. I do it daily. You're only going to get 50% of the daily rewards when you vote for my node as compared to voting for a block producing node. Okay. However, the quarterly rewards are based on contribution, and my contribution to the ecosystem has been, rather impactful. I mean, that's why I've been able to go from 0 votes to 5.7 votes in, basically about 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And, and one IOST equals 1 vote. So, that's 5.7 million IOST that's, frozen voting for my node and things like that. So, rewards are actually kind of minuscule, but you want to be locked into somebody who's going to be able to get what's called the tier 1 rewards, which I believe for content I'm going to be able to get. If not, definitely going to get it during quarter 2. I believe I should get it during quarter 1 as well, which those are due out any day now. But so that's kind of the difference between the community partner node and the block producing node. I mean, in essence, one produces blocks, one doesn't. However, I do plan, as I continue my journey with IOST, after I've gotten some of the quarterly rewards, to take part of those rewards and change over to a block producing reward. So now basically somebody's going to be able to get the full gamut, the daily block producing, the daily, just regular what you get by voting, and then the quarterly rewards as well. And plus, that's another thing for me personally and for my channel that I can get I'm trying to get a little deeper. I want to keep getting deeper and deeper into this ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And to your point then, your success in this community also means the success of the people who support you. And I noticed that throughout the theme of this research that I did for IOST, a lot of focus has been placed on making the highest contributor, the person or the people who contribute the most to the network, the ones that really have the say, that have the sway and get rewarded. And then the people who support them also get rewarded, rather than just whoever's the richest gets the spoils, like other proof of stake based environments. Proof of believability is a very interesting concept. What do you think about the whole process?
Yeah, I think it's really brilliant. And when it comes to the block producing, like you look at Huobi Pool, they're number 1 by a long shot. Mm-hmm. They've got, if I look at the numbers here, they've got about 25% of the votes are going to them. And so you look at that number and you say, man, that it's almost centralized in a way. I mean, you got one that's got 25% of the votes, but IOST set up the system and the ecosystem in a way to where basically they still only have a 1 out of 17 shot for, every time the rewards are divvied out and blocks are produced to be able to take part in that. So, even though they got 25% of the votes, they can't get 25% of the reward. So it's a pretty smart system the way that they set it up. So, I do think that it's definitely a way that's much more fair. And with the contributions, with people being rewarded for their contributions, that keeps whales from coming in and being able to control the system. So, in a way, it's actually better, for content creators to get that, or not necessarily content creators. There's 5 different categories: dApps, content creation, events, community, and integration. So the prime way for you to get the most amount of rewards would actually be if you voted for a node that had 2.1 million votes. They had the minimum amount of votes to get elected, but their contributions were huge. So
right, because you're splitting it with fewer people, right?
Yes, you're splitting it with fewer people. So it's very interesting. So I have some IOST staked on my own node to vote for myself, right? I mean, the president gets to vote for himself, right?
Yeah, you're allowed to.
Yeah, so not that much. I've got, about 300,000, so not a ton of IOST on there, but I've got a little bit that I voted myself with. So my voting is not centralized, but it's cool because on that IOST I've staked on my own node, like I also get to earn rewards on that. So it's really a system like we haven't seen before, and it's really great.
Yeah, and I think more and more projects should be taking notice of the idea of making everything community first, making it about your positive contribution to the ecosystem rather than your wealth or your stake in it from a dollar perspective. Because I think people go awry there because, obviously people are greedy. They want to make the most money. When you have the most wealth, you can make more. And we don't want to propagate that too much. So putting this whole emphasis on community, I think, is great. So really quick, we'll do a quick lightning round, but I'll let you finish what you were going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say that's very true. And, one thing I worry about in cryptocurrency is that, just touching off what you just said, it's like we've been given the keys to the kingdom, right? We've been given the keys to be able to decentralize the world. But, there was a time when the world was much more decentralized than it is now. And what happened? Human greed, human power, it ends up always moving towards a centralized system. So we kind of have this time that we can start over. And I think it's really important for projects like IOST to have this kind of, the whole system runs counterintuitive to what we know, as centralization. So if a system like this can work, I think it gives a lot of hope for the future in cryptocurrency and decentralization in general. Yeah,
no, I totally agree with you. All points. All right, quick lightning round, 3 questions, answers in like a sentence or two. What's your most favorite thing about IOST?
Most favorite thing about IOST would be I love the reward system. I think the reward system is very fair. It's good. It encourages people to vote for different nodes, kind of like we were just talking about. There's something in it for you to vote outside of the top 10 in nodes. So that's it. It's finding a sweet spot where you're not inside the top 10, but you still have a good ranking. That's kind of, I think in between 20 and 40 is a really good ranking because it gets people to vote for you, kind of for many different reasons.
Awesome. What's your most anticipated feature coming out for IOST in the next year?
Sharding is supposed to be coming out soon. It's definitely in the roadmap, but I would say really just when it comes to features, I would say I'm more excited just in general about dApps, the different dApps that are going to be coming out. We've already got the Endless Game. I think there's a small handful of others that haven't really gained the traction yet, but just to see what kind of dApps are going to be running on this system, I think is going to be really exciting. I mean, we've already seen, Tron, what they've got out, and it's good. I think IOST is going to be at least as good, if not better.
Excellent. Excellent. What's your least favorite thing about IOST, if you have one?
I mean, I have to have one, right? Everybody has to have a least favorite thing. I would say my least favorite thing about IOST is just that when it comes to these other platforms like Tron and Ethereum and EOS, it's almost like to kind of gain ground against them. Like IOST is going to have to bully its way up there, if that makes sense. And kind of, you know, I'm not saying there's any specific marketing that they've done that's like, oh, we're better than this project, but I just kind of see the direction of the marketing and pushing the project. Like it's going to have to be out there. It's going to have to be, you know, pretty brazen, I just wish all of these projects like started at the same time and these wouldn't have had first movers advantage, because I think that would have been much more advantageous for IOST, even though they've been ahead of the curve in terms of the roadmap, you know. And also, I don't do lightning round. I don't know if you noticed, I don't have one sentence that I can give for anything.
That's all good, man. Lightning is just, you know, still answers to questions. And then my last somewhat lightning round question would be, if someone wants to get involved in IOST, either to become a node or to just vote and stake some coins, where can they get started and how can they do that?
Well, you can jump in the IOST International Telegram group. It's a good group, good community. There's not spam in there. A lot of great questions. Also, you can get in my Telegram group, the Bit Squad. I'm actually kind of in the works of trying to figure out some more community type event or community driven stuff, whether it's meetups or whatever. But if you have questions about IOST, don't hesitate to ask me. You can come in Bit Squad Telegram chat. You can get that link on the bottom of any of my videos on BitBoy Crypto, or you can just search it. I think it's t.me/BitSquad. And come on in. I'd love to help you out, get you involved. And then I can, you know, help you with, you know, if you're interested in being a node and creating content or whatever it may be, I can help you out with that, get you the right people.
Excellent. So guys, you heard the man. If you want to get involved, you can check out his channel. It's BitBoy Crypto. You can see it on his hat right there. And definitely hit that subscribe button for the man, BitBoy. And we will definitely be talking about IOST in the coming weeks and months and probably years to come about some of these new features coming. So super stoked. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, man. Well, thanks for having me. Love talking to IOST and love talking to you.
Cheers, brother.
Right.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Guys, I hope you'll check out some more of my content. I've got a really cool video right here in the Token Talk Tuesday series and another one right here. I really appreciate all the time you spend watching my content. Cheers.